Ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. Today, I have two special guests, Sandra and Veronique, and I just want to say thank you for being guests on my talk show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
The honor's all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. Is to prove to them you can break the labels. So hashtag break the labels. Now, for some people who want to know why am I interviewing two people at once, it's a funny story that. It's not ha 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 funny, it's more ha ha funny. It's because a lot of people say to me I should be a motivational speaker, and instead of throwing myself to the wolves and I say, oh, there's a crowd of people over there, let me go talk to them. I'm socially awkward. So I came up with the idea of changing my format. If I can interview multiple people at once, given the opportunity, I can give myself practice. So when I see an opportunity, say, oh, there's a group of people over there, I'm going to jump right into it instead of being like a deer in the headlights, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, perfect.
And also, I would like to shake up the show. I like to do different things. Also, I have ADD, so one-on-one kind of gets boring after a while. I like my mind to be stimulated. But with that being said, a half hour of your time, and you guys can ask each other whatever you want. You can ask me anything you want. We're all networking here, supporting a good cause. And starting off, Sandra, what can you tell us about yourself?
Hi. And first of all, thanks for having me. It's a great honor, and it's a pleasure to meet you as well. And I am based in Central Oregon. I'm a filmmaker here and an actor. I do screenwriting and enjoy working in many facets of the filmmaking industry. I've been doing it for a little under 10 years, and today I just signed on to produce a short film for the first time, so that's kind of exciting. I have a lot to learn yet about the industry, but I'm really having a pleasant journey. So.
No, I agree with you, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I do apologize.
Oh, it's all good.
But to answer your question, I'm the same way. A lot of people say I'm green with envy. I'm still still new, and I'm trying to get myself out of the gates, as you can see. But sometimes I stick my foot in my mouth because I like to be different, and I like walking to the beat of my own drum. But sometimes I kind of say things that later on I kind of regret. But I have a disability, so I guess that works in my favor.
I totally understand that. And I actually also kind of pride myself on being different. And to tell you the truth, I've always been a bit of a square peg in a round hole socially. And as I get older, I learn to appreciate that more. I actually like being somebody who doesn't fit into the mainstream. It suits me well. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. It sounds like you're saying you belong to that club as well. So it makes meeting somebody who faces the same different identity that we get to embrace and cherish even sweeter.
No, absolutely. Now it's your turn.
Hi, thank you so much also. I'm Veronique Ory. I'm an actor and a producer. I'm based in the New York City area. And I'm originally from Montreal. And I've been in the New York City area for about 9 years now. And when I graduated college, I actually moved out to LA, and I was there for 8 years. And it was there that I realized very quickly that I don't have the temperament to wait for the phone to ring. So I started my own theater company out there. It's called Athena Theater, and we're in our 16th season. And we're now based in New York, and we have several different programs surrounding developing new plays. Our main mission is to foster emerging playwrights. So we have a resident playwright group, as well as a monthly play reading series, as well as our full productions that we produce. So in addition to acting that I do for theater, film, and voiceovers, I'm lessening that in-between time by creating my own opportunities as well.
No, absolutely. That's if you want to get somewhere in life, you have to, get off your butt and go and show them this is what I want. For an example, I thought I could use. Okay, maybe I am using my disability to get what I want, but I thought things would be handed to me. But the same thing like you guys, to be in the entertainment world, you have to bust your ass and say, I'm not going to be a fly-by-night. If you're a Russ fan, you get the reference. You're not going to be a fly-by-night. There's a good song, by the way, if you want to look it up, by Rush. Again, I can't say it was a straight face. A fly-by-night or a one-hit wonder. You got to show people, if you really want this, you have to get up and do the work. And I've been doing this 24/7 for 4 years and a half. This June will be 5. I originally got to 300. I made a mistake. Well, 2 mistakes. But long story short, I did 72 phone interviews. I did 300 interviews. I took it down. I rebranded myself. Thanks to you guys, we're back up to 485.
Wow.
It drives me nuts, but you guys were supposed to be 785, but when I said do it over, I just deleted everything. But the next question I was going to ask you is, have you guys ever worked with people with special needs, besides me? Have you ever worked with anyone with special needs, and would you be willing to work with special needs in the entertainment world?
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I have a few different writing partners on different projects I'm working on. And there's a gentleman that I met at an audition in Portland that was born with some special needs. And he and I talk every day about this series that we're writing. And we will actually both have principal talent roles in it. I find him to be extremely bright and very loyal to the project and very motivated. So the answer is yes. And to tell you the truth, I have some disabilities from my first career in law enforcement. And so people that work with me work with somebody who has a few different needs, though they don't always know it. So I feel blessed that I can continue to work as my health permits. Yes, I absolutely would work with people with special needs again in the future. It's been a great experience so far. And people are people. I mean, it doesn't matter what they can do and not do. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Some of them show and some of them don't. And the bottom line is, if you're loyal to a project and you apply yourself, that's what I expect from people I partner with on different projects. And that's what this gentleman I spoke of earlier is doing. He's very committed.
No, absolutely. What about you? What would you say?
That's great. So, yes, I've also worked with people with different kinds of special needs in different capacities. And I think in general, the main thing that I've always approached every project with has been being honest with each other about what you're able to commit to. And that goes for everyone. There's people that don't necessarily have a special need, but maybe they take on too much and they're not able to do everything that they said they would do. So I think really the crux of it is just understanding what each person's needs are and what each person is able to fulfill. And once everyone has an understanding of what the expectations are, then I think certainly there's great possibilities to work with everybody.
No, I agree with you, and it goes back to what I was saying from my catchphrase. Labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, and you should prove to them you can break the labels. I was labeled handicapped, mentally disturbed, retarded, but I was never going to amount to anything. I was going to work in retail or be put in a group home and be a burden for someone. But look at what I found that I'm capable of doing. Like I said, I've been doing this for 4.5 years. This June would be 5. And yes, I do bounce from job to job because, it annoys me because I kind of hold myself to a higher standard. It's kind of like Suits, life is this, but I want to be here, not here. And it's kind of like, it's like one of my managers is like a 20-year-old, and I'm 30. So it's kind of like, why am I taking orders from a kid, someone who's half my age? So it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Or, it's just basically saying, yeah, if I don't ever become famous, I might become a manager. But my main goal is my talk show, and it's always good to have a backup plan. But I was actually thinking about entering more into the entertainment world by going to, I don't know if you guys ever heard New York Acting, and then New York Casting.
New York Casting,
I was looking at it, and I was like, well, maybe my talk show would be good enough. But just in case, it's always good to have a backup plan. But the show's not about me, it's about you guys. So the next question I was going to ask you is, what's everything going on in the world? And I'm going to ask you a brand new subject. First I was going to ask you about social media, but I created this earlier, so I want to stay on this. Do you guys shop online, or would you prefer to shop in a store?
Veronique?
I prefer to shop online, actually. And I think part of it is living in the city. It's a big to-do to go to the store because then you're stuck carrying it all home. So oftentimes it's just more convenient to shop online. It's everyone's, main thing that they say is everyone's busy, and so it's just I think if I lived somewhere other than New York City, I would enjoy actually going to the store, but I actually rarely
But if you don't mind me
store.
for saying, what do you think online shoppers are killing the retail business, or at least hurting it to an extent where some stores can't stay open?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Like, for an example, there's a bunch of stores that are closing. Like Toys R Us is closing, Claire's is closing, Spider closed. Do you think the online shopping has a big impact on the retail market?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw that happen with Barnes and Noble and Borders. There's nearly no bookstores left in the New York City area, at least. It's the same sort of thing that happened as technology was invented for the farming industry, for example. Once it's basic economics of supply and demand. If the demand isn't there and the real estate prices are increasing, it's hard for stores to stay open under those circumstances.
True, but you never see any robots milking cows. There's always people doing that. And you never see farms getting up and disappearing. There will always be farms. But with Sandra, I'm going to pass it to you. How do you feel about the whole retail business, about stores closing?
Well, I'm with Veronique. I do spend most of my shopping time online because I can compare prices. I can see reviews, although you only put so much stock in those. But I can really look over a product and things like that when I can find the best price. I'm very drawn to that as an option, as opposed to running around and burning gas and finding parking and driving a long way from where I live in the country into a retail store. And regarding your question about retail stores going away, yes, I do absolutely blame that on the internet. On the other hand, I'm really grateful for the internet because most of the internet companies that are exclusively internet-based, they don't pay for a storefront. And that way they can have reduced prices and more storefronts have a big footprint on the land in the shopping districts and perhaps a warehouse somewhere in addition to that. If you're shopping just from a warehouse online, it seems to me we're utilizing fewer resources. They're not paying to heat two buildings, keep the lights on in two buildings, and it just makes a lot of sense to me. It is really unfortunate that a lot of retailers, especially small local businesses, are feeling the sting of it. But, as a mother, I need to save money where I can. My kids are in college, and I am remorseful that those businesses that are local are suffering. But I do have to make smart choices with the resources I have.
No, it's understandable. But let me ask you one more question, and we can go to another subject. Do you guys want to be hermits for the rest of your life and stay home and never interact with anyone? Because, it's for me, because
I think the shopping online is so that we can spend our time outside doing things that, are part of our jobs, spending time with friends and family versus, if we're spending a couple hours shopping, then we can spend that time in a more quality way.
Well said.
Okay, and my last subject for you guys, and then we got to take a commercial break, is because you two are up-and-coming actresses, and the first thing I'll say to you, Sandra, is thank you for your service as being a law enforcement officer.
Oh, it's my pleasure, sir. Thank you. That's very sweet.
I have my moments when I'm a good person. But
I think there are many of them.
So the first question I was going to ask you on our last subject is social media. Can social media make you or break you? And with everything going on with, the whole Facebook, with giving out personal information, and the whole thing about, upcoming people like myself using YouTube, trying to get yourself out there. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think you have to be very sensitive on what you say and how you approach things?
I'll jump in. I think it's yes and yes. It can make you and it can break you. My perspective is one as a person who uses social media to basically build my brand, which is my name in the film industry, as it is in yours, Keith. And, I am trying to build my professional reputation and share things that are positive, that are happening, just as most of my colleagues are doing on social media. But if I were to say something short-sighted or I don't know, there's so many opportunities for a person to put their foot in their mouth. It could ruin a career. It could at least alienate you from people in your world. So it is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
But what about, say for an example, you guys worked for me, and he said, yeah, I worked for Keith, and he's a nice guy, but he sucks as an interviewer. You know, that's fine if you want to say that, you can say that, but you do have a right to your opinion, but how much of that is saying, okay, it's freedom of speech, but at the same time you feel like you have a gun to your head, saying, well, okay, yes, I'm just expressing myself, but at the same time, is that really, now people will think as me as a jerk for saying that? But that's for both of you, by the way.
Okay. Do you want to speak on that, Veronique, or I can continue running my mouth, but I know you have a great brain and some good ideas.
Sure. I mean, I think because I didn't grow up in an age of social media, you know, I didn't get a cell phone until I was 20 years old, and it was, you know, a very like rudimentary flip phone. It still feels very new to me, even though it's been around for a while now. Right. And I know that it feels like there are these stars born overnight on YouTube, on Instagram in particular. And it sort of started with reality TV, I think, this idea of sort of like voyeurism and this feeling of wanting to know personal details about strangers, which still feels, I don't know, I feel sort of like a grandmother in that regard. Like, it just feels like it's none of my business, you know? Like, it's like the same sort of thing surrounding the tabloid magazines and TMZ and all of that stuff, where it seems like there's like a team of people trying to call people in the spotlight out and bring them down, which I've never been a proponent of. People, if they're not hurting themselves or other people, I don't need to know that they are cheating on their husband. Like, it's just none of my business is how I feel. And so part of it is, I think, just having a barrier and having privacy for yourself. And if people invade that privacy to bring you down, you know, there's nothing, I guess, that you can do about that per se. But I think having that barrier of privacy is a real defining border of whether someone can make you or break you. Does that make sense?
No, it does. What about you, Sandra? How do you feel about it?
The privacy issue is a big one in my world. Having a law enforcement background and then entering into a new field in which Veronique's right. People watch you with a more scrutinizing eye. And so privacy is something I guard pretty thoroughly. It is a consideration when you choose to use social media. However, people in our industry pretty much have no choice but to use social media or to appoint somebody to manage their social media. And I don't know if this is happening in New York. I'm curious to find out if it is. But here in Oregon, the casting directors, when you go in for an audition, they will look at your IMDb page and your resume and your social media to see how many followers you have. That is now a consideration when you are up for a role. You may or may not be selected based on how many followers you have. And I'm not certain which social media sites they look at, but that's what they're doing now. And I was pretty shocked when I heard it, but I guess I understand it's probably a business decision on their part.
Yeah, there's something about securing ratings, knowing that someone is coming with a certain following.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that. What do you do with that information?
I know it's become sort of the new climate of the industry for sure.
And that brings up to what I was. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean jump in.
Oh, that's okay. She's right. It's a new part of the industry, and it sort of snuck up on us from over our shoulders somewhere, because I would not have seen that coming.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. And for an example, I always say, is it the message that trying to correct my thoughts without having a brain fart? Is it the message that means something, or is it the following? So, like for an example, you guys have hundreds and hundreds of people following you. So, is that important, or is it the message? Like, say for an example, all three of us are in a meeting, but only one of us can be chosen, and you guys have hundreds of people following you, but you don't have a message. But yet, I have a strong message, and I have, like, I don't know, 900 people following me. So with that being said, how does the message outweigh the followers, and how does the followers outweigh the message? Or does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, at least from what I remarked on, it's sort of a popularity contest versus a content contest. Because, it's the old arguments of, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, did it really fall? So, you can have really great content, but if it's not having a wide reach, then but if you're having great content, then the following will build.
Do you agree?
I agree totally. You can be a person of great substance and have some profound things to say on the positive side, or you can be a person with a very unpopular view and insulting and derogatory, or whatever, which may in its own right get a different group of people to follow your social media.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you can qualify that as good, maybe. It just depends on the perspective of the person looking in. I think, like me, a lot of folks in our industry use social media to promote themselves. Like I said earlier, your name is your brand. And we've all heard that old saying that any publicity is good publicity. And I'm not really sure where the line is drawn on that. I tend to express a few opinions, but I will not be derogatory toward anybody on my social media sites. And I don't know if that's well received or if it's considered good or bad, but at least I'm honest.
No, I feel the same way. I have no filter, so something pops in my head. And, I did talk about my past job experiences, and I never trashed them, but I did say, some jobs I did have great experiences. Some, I was set up to fail, or some of them, weren't the right fit. But this is pretty much my way of working on myself, and it's kind of like therapy for myself. So just because I say something doesn't really mean, oh, that's really how he feels. I'm just venting to carry on the conversation, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, with the last 3 minutes left of the show, I'm going to pass it over to you guys. So was there any subjects you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to promote? This is your time. Or you can ask me anything you want. Gloves off.
Sandra?
Great. Oh, well, I worked on a film recently that's getting ready for release. It's called Between the Trees. I was production coordinator on that film. We have another film that's out there being distributed called Besetment, and I was production coordinator on that as well and had a small acting role in it. And that's available on Amazon Prime and Redbox. But I do have a question for Veronique, if I may. I eventually, in the next couple of years, hope to move out of the market, the very limited market that I'm in, and I have my eye on New York City to work in the film industry. But I would like to know, because you've worked there in the film industry and also worked in the film industry in LA, what is the best place for me to go to as an outsider trying to break into the industry there? What is least saturated and has the most opportunities for a person my age with the experiences that you've heard me say I've had?
That's a really hard question. I think ultimately, I think the best move is someplace where you feel like you can have the best quality of life. And it may not necessarily be LA or New York. There are pros and cons to both towns, for sure. Weather being one, overpopulation being one. In LA, you're spending the bulk of your time in your car, and there's a lot. It's a very spread out town, so you spend a lot of time going to the different neighborhoods, and the bulk of the people there are in the industry. So you'll go to a cafe and the girl next to you is talking about her callback, and the guy at the other table is talking about the film he's writing, and this person's talking about, what project they're working on. It feels like everybody in LA is working in the industry. It's crazy. Whereas in New York, when I first got here, I was like, oh, there's like people that work in different jobs, and so you can have like a more diverse experience, I feel. So it's not like so kind of tunnel visioned. But on the other hand, it's a rough city. It is hard. You're constantly like bumping into people. The train is never on time. It smells. You're accosted by people that are panhandling everywhere you turn. And people generally are not kind. And
I see.
And you'll meet people that are from New York and they're like, we're just being honest. Which, like, it's like a get out of jail card for being a jerk. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't, like, just be honest, but also, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
It seems like a justification for someone that just doesn't know good manners. But I'm originally from Canada, so
where everybody's nice.
Everyone's nice, and maybe I take it too personally. But I mean, you'll move where is right for you, but I would almost suggest to you to look at some smaller markets. And maybe there's an in-between where you can have a quality of life that you can afford a place that's bigger than a shoebox, so that when you're in between projects, you're not hating life.
I understand. Thank you. I really do appreciate your perspective.
Sure, and that's just my opinion, but take it for what it's worth. I think both cities I've enjoyed for the time that I've been there, but I've definitely lately have been craving a better quality of life. So that's the place that I'm currently in. So that's what I'm speaking to.
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And while on the subject, was there anything you wanted to talk about while wrapping up? Anything you want to plug?
Let's see. My theater company, like I had mentioned before, we have our resident playwright group, and each year we select 8 to 12 playwrights to be in residence, and we meet every other week developing new plays. And I'm really excited about the playwrights this year. They're all amazingly talented, and the first part of the year is dedicated to writing 10-minute plays. And so next month we're presenting all 10-minute plays at Symphony Space on the Upper West Side. And it's a gorgeous venue, and it's a great way to showcase the work that these playwrights have been working on this whole year. And that event is on May 16th.
No, that's awesome. And if you guys ever have any banners or commercials you want me to play, just give them my way, and I will promote them for you. Hey, you help
so
me,
fun.
I help you.
Thank you so much.
Now, I do have a couple questions for you guys off the air, but wrapping up, how can people follow you in social media? Are you guys on LinkedIn, Twitter, Stage32? And either one of you can start.
I have a LinkedIn account, Sandra Doolittle, 2 O's, and I do have a lot of contacts there I enjoy visiting about the industry with. Also on Stage 32, and I have a professional Facebook account under the same name, and IMDb.
Great. I'd love to connect with you.
Yes, please. I would enjoy that.
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and my handle is Veronique Ory. I don't know if you're printing names somewhere, but my name is a little tricky. It's VeroniqueOry.
As soon as we're done, just message me back on Skype with your Twitter handles, and it'll be on the bottom of the screen, or Instagram.
Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
But stay tuned. I do have a couple questions off the air, but wrapping up, starting with you, Veronique. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction, and what made you say yes?
It's so interesting because lately I've received a lot of requests for to be friends on my personal Facebook page, which it's a little bit of a gray line, my personal Facebook page, because I do also promote what I'm working on that page as well. But I have a bit of a guard on that page just because I do also post personal things on there. So I had a bit of hesitation, just naturally, just wanting, like we talked about earlier, about protecting that privacy. But ultimately, it's always a joy to meet new people, and it's great to have a platform to connect with other artists and to have a space just to talk about the industry and share our views on it.
What about you, Sandra? Well, when I approached you, what was your first reaction? Besides, who the hell is this guy?
It was. This is great because, just like Veronique said, it's awesome to talk to other people in the industry. It's not just a career for me; it's a passion, and I spend most of my days working in the industry, whether it's just talking with one of my writing partners or working on a screenplay or putting feelers out there for more work. It is it's a big job. It's a great job, but I love it. And so I was excited, and then when I looked you up, which the old cop in me always does, I looked you up and saw that you seemed like a pretty straightforward guy. And I don't know, I was just kind of really excited to have a chance to talk to you. And I've also gotten to meet Veronique and get her input on some things. It's been a good way to spend my time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And that's why I want to do the group interviews, because you're not just networking with the three of us, you're also building a connection as well. As you two just found out. But wrapping up the interview, I want to tell all our listeners, all this week, playing on the KeithAndrewNetwork.com, I'm playing all season 1. Right now I'm playing episode 2 with Ron Reisman. He's a music producer from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So every Sunday, for that whole week, you will see season 1. And after I get 100 views, so pretty much the only reason I'm playing the seasons from the beginning is some of the interviews didn't get a lot of views, so I'm trying to get myself out there more and say, hey, check out this interview. And the video quality is kind of like this, as you see on the video. This was the camera, and this is what the camera picked up. And you see a big transition from Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, thanks to my brother. He told me about Google Hangout, but I found Skype Recorder, how it's cut in half. So now it's free while it's on the screen. So I could have done this from the beginning, but then you really wouldn't have seen the process over the 4.5 years. But with that being said, it was a real honor and privilege to have you guys as a friend, as friends now, and having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, too.
Arlene Schofield.
My name is Shireen Snow.
My name is Carla A. Miles.
Diana Camuto.
This is Christine Dunford.
I'm me, Eden.
Caroline Macy. This is Walker Fannin.
I'm Camille Dixon.
I'm Miss Dates Wardam.
My name is Linda Prusson, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Me, Mark Medley.
Hi, everybody. This is Mark Neely.
Barry Babick.
This is Peter Bruno.
My name is Kyle Collier.
This is Julio Santiago, better known as Dynamite.
I'm Richard Epcar.
Lawrence Chow.
This is Kerrigan Mahan.
This is Goldar.
And we both support
Keith Andrew.
My name is Ron Wasserman, and I am supporting Keith Andrew and what he is doing, and you better do the same, or I'm going to come kick your ass.